Our first story today comes from user Spartan with a Gun, titled, "Stop Being So Good at Fighting." Brace for impact, because this is a doozy, and this was last year. So, I'm in a Tang Soo Do class, Korean karate. It's like Taekwondo, but more traditional. And I'm a dang good fighter. It was sparring day, so I'm immediately pretty excited. Now in the changing room, I'm getting into my uniform and pads, and then the jerk of my belt level, red, but this guy has the form and discipline of a white belt, walks in with his usual swagger. I just ignore him until he starts roughing up my hair. After telling him to stop several times, and him still doing it, I just slug him in the gut with my padded fist. He walks away a bit ticked off, and I go down to the main floor and get warmed up. Then he comes down, puts on the communal pads for the people without gear of their own, and starts roughing me up again, saying things like, "Learn to balance," or "Kick faster." I was doing jump kick combos, where I would need to do 5 things with the 1 second I was in the air, so I was pretty off balance upon landing. And I just say, I'll take your advice when your front punch stops looking like you're doing the whip, and your block stops looking like you're doing the nay-nay. Now, the Grandmaster goes onto the floor and tells us to get into line by height to begin sparring. So now I'm in line at attention, when I get to see the kid out of the corner of my eye telling the Grandmaster that I punched him in the changing room. The Grandmaster goes to me, asks if I did it, and I admit it. I say that he wouldn't stop roughing me up and that's why I did it. I got 10 extra push-ups because of the punch, but when the kid asked why I wasn't removed from the floor, the Grandmaster says, "Shoulda blocked." We get in line, and we do an activity where you basically need to win matches to move up a line, and the winner of each fight was the opponent for the next in line. I start because I'm the shortest in my class, but the kid is the second shortest. So now I'm fighting him. The Grandmaster explains the rules. First to 3 points, above the belt line, arms don't count, stepping out of the ring is a point for the opponent, no grabbing the opponent. I was referred to as blue, he was red. So the judge is referred to as J. Judge says, "Round 1, fight!" He starts off by throwing a weird punch at my gut. I just sidestep and back fist him in the back of the head. Judge says, "Point blue, round 2, fight!" He throws the same weird punch, so I sidestep the other direction and punch him hard in the gut. "Point blue, round 3, fight!" Now, this idiot decides to front kick me in my no-no zone. Yay for sports cops, even if you didn't hit. And this has a very simple solution. Smack his leg to the side, throw him off balance. From there, a swift punch to the chest ends the fight. Winner blue! Class ends, and the kid, his dad in tow, approached me. Talk goes like this. EK entitled dad, ED entitled dad, me, the malicious echidna, orange potato, and KJN, Kwan Jiang Nim, or Grandmaster, who by the way has a very whimsical, fun-loving attitude. Entitled dad starts off going, "You fought my son today?" Yeah, what of it?" "You cheated. You grabbed him and did a takedown for that last point." "Oh, no. I just knocked him off balance enough by using a kick that he threw. And he aimed below my belt line anyway." "I would never do that." "You did though." "Even so, he's still learning how to fight well. You should have gone easy." "He should have been learning to fight well for the past 3 years. He ignored Kim Jong-sun's lessons every second of it though." Now, the entitled dad calls over KJM, the dojo master, to settle it. Entitled dad goes, "Get this piece of crap out of here." "What is the magic word?" "I'm not 5, and the magic word is, get him out or I'll stop paying you." "Then I will stop teaching him." "He cheated in the fight, he assaulted my son in the locker room, and he disrespects me now." "I know about the changing room issue, and I watched the fight. He did not cheat. Your son, on the other hand, was aiming below the belt line on several occasions, even after his fight with OP." Then, the entitled dad decides to try and punch the Grandmaster in the B-sack. The Grandmaster doesn't even flinch, but the entitled dad goes to grab his fist in pain. KJM had a sports cup. The entitled kid tries to attack me. I just put him in a wrist lock and forced him to the ground. When he started to tap, I stopped. I let him keep some sliver of pride. Then they left. Never saw them again. Like, good riddance, I say. Why should we have to put up with these kinds of people with no respect? You're literally in a dojo practicing amongst other kids for a reason. You're not there to bully and dominate them, mate. Like, if you're gonna act that way, you deserve everything you're given in return. Don't act surprised when the instructor calls you out. He obviously doesn't care about your money. Anyway, that's just my 2 cents. I thought you guys wanted to hear it. Our next story is also by user Spartan with a Gun, titled, "Give me your knight helmet." So, I'm a history nut, and so when I heard about a local Greek convention, I jumped on it and came in full Spartan armor with a wooden spear, kopis, a type of sword like a large kukri, and a shield. What I didn't know was there was an area made for fighting with your armor and weapons. So I got there and put the foam pads they required us to use onto my gear, and I was ready to go. So they began to explain the rules, just sparring rules, but strikes to the legs and arms counted, first to 5 points, yada yada. That's when I noticed my spear's gone. I look around and see a little kid poking somebody in Athenian armor with my spear. So I take it back, say it was mine, and talk to the guy who I stopped from being poked. Turns out, he was the guy I had to fight. The fight comes, I start by throwing my spear at him and get the first point. Fight ends, I won 5-3, and I go to pick up my spear. It's gone again. I look, and then I see the kid poking a girl I knew in the butt with his spear. I take it from him again, and this time he goes ballistic, screaming, rolling around, kicking my legs. Thank God for Greaves though. Q, entitled mother, and then G is for girl. She's also part of the story.
What is happening here? What did you just do to my kid?
Ma'am, he took my spear and I took it back from him. He took it twice.
I don't care. He deserves it since you were so rude.
I spent a long time making this and I don't want some kid stealing it. And your kid was poking me in the rear with it, ma'am.
Give me it now.
She reaches for it, but I block her with my shield. And I was like, cut it out, lady.
What? Don't you talk to me like that in front of my kid. He may pick up on your rude butt attitude, but he deserves your knight helmet too.
Yes, this idiot didn't know the difference between a Corinthian type helmet and a knight helmet. Can you believe it? I mean, I obviously know the difference between them. She then grabs my helmet by the plume on top. I had it strapped on so it wouldn't get knocked off during the fight. So she manages to rip off part of the plume. The plume took 2 weeks to make, so I'm pretty mad. Then she punches me in the gut. Luckily, I still had the iconic chest plate of Sparta, the kind with the abs. She breaks her knuckles. She rears back, grabs her hand and yells for security. The entitled mother goes,
"This boy broke my hand."
The security replies, "Is this true?" And I reply, "No, she tried to punch me in the gut." So then I move my shield to expose my breastplate, which she then broke her hand on. And she goes,
"Arrest him for assault and for stealing my son's spear."
Then the girl poked in the butt replies, "Her son took the spear from him and poked me in the butt with it." The security cameras will confirm that it is my spear. Security room is this way. We look at the footage and see everything from me entering with the spear, the moment her crotch maggot took said spear, both times, and how she tried to take my helmet and then punched me. Security then asks me, "Do you want to press charges, mate?" Yes. So we go to court. She's found guilty on counts of attempted theft, destruction of personal property, and assault. She had to pay a hefty fine to get my helmet plume repaired. The kid was let off with a warning for sexual assault, and I won the dueling tournament too. I got the final point by kicking my opponent. Alright guys, I know what you're going to say in the comments. Yeah, they really had us in the first half, I'll admit that. So, sure, if you think it's fake, go ahead and tell me in the comments. I still liked reading it. You're welcome to disagree, I just liked it. What can I say? On to the next story. So, our next story is by user PurpleWolf2000, titled, "Entitled Mother Sabotages Me Getting a Job." Cast, me and EM, my entitled mother, my own entitled mother. Most of my life, I had done various extracurricular activities, and there was this one in particular that my mom was really adamant that I do. This is because she had done it as a child. She forced me into at least staying for 1 year. At first I hated it, but slowly ended up liking it. However, in my 4th year of the activity, I started facing challenges and things I was not interested in. The program started heading towards things that I did not want to do, so I talked to my mum about quitting. She was furious, and she said no. However, anytime she boasted about my accomplishments in the program to the others, she would say that I was there by choice and I could leave if I wanted. So, in front of her friends, I told her I wanted to quit and to get a job. She pointed out that at summer camp for the training I got paid $10 a day, which she took as soon as I got the money. I stuck by my guns and told her I wanted a job. We argued about it constantly, and she told me how stupid I was for wanting to get a job.
Aw, you just want a job because your friends have a job. I completely support you financially, so you getting a job is an insult to me.
Mum, I'm in junior year. It's honestly sad that I don't have a job at this point. And it's not an insult to you. If anything, you would have to support me less, and you'd have more money for yourself.
But if you have a job, then you'll be here to help me with things. You hardly help me with my things anyway. How can you work an actual job?
Well, for one, I would be getting paid, and two, I'll still do chores and stuff with the job.
But what about me? This is unfair to me. I need help sorting my office and my bedroom, and if you have a job, you won't be there to help me. And what about what I want? I want you to stay this program and be like me.
Mum, it's not like I'll be at the job all the time. I can still help you sometimes. And this program is becoming something I'm not interested in anyway. They're heading towards something I have no interest in.
Whatever, you're just a selfish jerk. Have fun scrubbing toilets with your stupid friends.
None of my friends scrub toilets, by the way. After that, my mum got a boyfriend out of town and would leave for the week to see him and come home on weekends. So I took this opportunity to apply for jobs. I applied to a bunch of places, but one of the places I was almost guaranteed a job, as my best friend worked there too. My mum was ticked, but didn't make much of an argument about me getting a job. Instead, she insisted that I pay her now.
She says, well, since you think you're all grown up now, you can start paying me back for everything I've given you. Your paychecks will go to me.
Haha, absolutely not. That's gonna be my money, and I was gonna start saving for post-secondary.
Your first year of paychecks will be given to me, you understand? You can't even handle that much money. You're just gonna spend it all on fatty food and get fatter.
I'm responsible enough not to spend all my money, Mum. I plan on putting half of each paycheck into my savings account, so I think that's a fair plan to save up.
Whatever.
I moved out shortly after that and lived with my best friend, who was at the job that I was almost guaranteed for. I was waiting for the callback and my mum and I had gotten into a fight about something. Probably me moving out or applying for jobs. My mum took my phone despite me telling her that I was waiting for a callback, and she told me that she would let me know if they called. Well, guess what? I never heard back. A job fair came up for a fast food place, so I applied there and I was hired on the spot. It was during this time at this job that I found out that the other place had called me back, but my mum didn't bother to answer it or to tell me. She instead decided to tell me this 4 months later. Furious, I went to this place I had originally applied to and explained the situation. They were understanding and said that they were still willing to hire me. So I quit my fast food job and now working in retail with my best friend. I've been working there for 1.5 years now and am a valued employee and very respected among my colleagues. Take that, Mum. And our last story is also by Purple Wolf 2000, titled, Your Graduation Isn't About You, It's About Me Too. Cast, me, obviously. Entitled Mother, my own mother, again. So, my mum and I have had some really rough spots, and I left home. I only see her about once a month, but our relationship is on the mend. Well, I'm graduating soon, and so I thought it would be nice to invite her, as she is my mother. Each graduate only gets 4 tickets, so I invited my mum, dad, and my best friends. These are the 4 people who I wanted or thought should be there. My mum disagreed though. My parents have been separated for as long as I can remember and haven't spoken in years. They do not get along. Despite this, she understood why I invited him. Instead, she had a problem with my other 2 guests because
I don't feel connected to them, and you should only invite people more connected to me.
Mum, this is my graduation and I want them there.
Well, I don't feel connected to anyone else, so how's that fair? It's not just your graduation, it's my only child's graduation, and as a mother, I have the right to have people I connect with there. You could have invited my fiancé at least.
Mum, as it's my graduation and I don't have many friends here, I'm not changing my decision. My friends will be coming and that's final. I want them there.
This isn't about you. This is about me too. My child is graduating.
I am your child. You're still coming. It's not like I'm denying you your graduation invite.
Whatever. I just think you're being unfair. I just want to be happy at your graduation.
I honestly couldn't help but roll my eyes. She did this at prom too. She was annoyed that no one paid much attention to her when my best friends and I were getting ready to leave. I don't know guys, am I in the wrong here? I feel like it's my graduation and I should be allowed to invite who I want. Maybe I'm the entitled one. There's no happy ending to this one. Hello again. I decided today is a good day to tell a story about the entitled dad that turned my whole life upside down. So let's get on with this. This happened 6 years ago. It was a week after my birthday and we decided to throw a late birthday party. My parents were busy with work on my actual birthday, so we rescheduled the party. I invited quite a few of my friends, but one of them didn't seem to show up. His father called my parents saying he'd be late to the party. The party was from 7 PM to 12 AM. He never showed up. Once the party was over, we were heading home. We're about 5 or 10 minutes from Oslo, because we had the party at our lodge just outside the city, and talking about how fun the party was. That conversation was cut short when a vehicle drifted into our lane and collided with us. I blacked out. When I woke up in a hospital bed, I started to panic, but the doctor was running tests on me to make sure that I'm okay and told me to calm down and that I was alright. After about 20 to 30 minutes of questioning and small tests, I asked the big question. Sir, where are my parents? The doctor basically froze there for 10 seconds and responded, and I'll never forget what he told me. OP, I'm sorry, but your parents didn't survive the crash. My parents were deceased. I was informed that my dad was killed on impact, and my mum was pronounced dead when she arrived at the hospital with me. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to cry, but all I felt was anger. I knew the person whom drifted into my lane was at fault, so I asked who crashed into us. It was my friend's dad, the god-dang entitled dad. Apparently, the entitled dad was under the influence of something when he arrived, and is currently handcuffed to a hospital bed. One of the nurses told me later that he was demanding help before his son would be treated. His son that was on goddamn life support because of the accident. He was sent to jail for a DUI, and I don't know if he'd been released or not, but if he's out there, he'd better hope that we don't cross paths. I'm currently living in a foster home with a wonderful family who treat me like I'm their own flesh and blood. But as long as I'm alive, I'll never forget my real parents, and I'll never forget my best friend, and I'll never forgive the entitled dad for what he's done. Thank you for listening. Edit. Thank you for all the positive support. I really appreciate it. The awards aren't necessary, but thank you anyways. For all of those wondering, my friend did pass away 3 days after the accident, and I don't know if the father has been charged with more than DUI, but there is a high probability that he has been charged with manslaughter. And yes, I do hope he's still rotting in a jail cell. He shouldn't be allowed to walk the streets, if he is at all. Our next story was posted by user Uniqlo Hobo, titled, Entitled Mum Tells Me to Put Clothes on My Toddler Daughter because her teenage son was getting turned on. I was playing with my 4-year-old daughter in my backyard. It was warm, so I was splashing water on her. We have an unfenced yard, so several neighbours could see if they were looking out their window. A few moments later, Entitled Mum walks up to me.
You are disgusting.
Excuse me?
You have this girl running around nude, trying to seduce innocent young men.
What the heck are you talking about? She's 4, and she's wearing underwear.
You are disgusting. My poor 16-year-old son stays away from sin.
I'm assuming she meant sex or porn, but who cares?
And then you have this thing,
She actually called her a thing.
running around nude.
She is 4, and if your son is turned on by her, he's a pedophile.
He's 16, he's a child. Children can't be pedos. If you don't put clothes on her, I'm gonna call CPS.
About 20 minutes later, the cops came to my house. My daughter was napping by this time. The officer said he got a call about a child prostitution ring. I explained everything to the officer, and he agreed that the woman was insane. I asked if I could file a report against her son for watching my daughter, and he said that there was nothing that they could do, but we built a fence later that week. This was last summer. I haven't seen the family much since. Our next story was posted by user Prince Lee, titled, "Entitled Mother Won't Get Off the Plane and Doesn't Want Anyone Else to Either." I was recently flying back from Orlando. As I'm sure we all know, Orlando, with its many theme parks, is the entitled parents' capital of the world, but thankfully the entire flight was without incident, for the most part. Aside from when the ice bag to keep medicine cool that the man sitting next to me had stowed in the overhead started leaking on me, and he got angry at me for calling a flight attendant over. So the plane lands, and I'm covered in liquid germs, distilled finely in water that ran through the cracks in the overhead bin of a plane older than I am. This was a night flight as well. All I want to do is go home and go to sleep after a long shower. As is tradition in every flight ever, the moment that the plane has made it to the gate and the door is open, everyone is standing up and getting ready to go. Except for the family in front of me. There's a 4-year-old girl and her mum, and the father as well. Only the father stands up. The doors open, the people in the front of the plane start getting their luggage and moving. The father is standing, the mum pulls her sleeping daughter into her lap. More people in the front are getting off the plane. I'm waiting for my chance to go. I have nothing stowed in the overhead. The father is standing, the mother takes a blanket and puts it over her daughter, still on her lap. The line has moved to the row in front of me now. The father is remarkably efficient in grabbing the luggage, and in one fluid movement, he has grabbed everything off of theirs and headed towards the front. The mum is still sitting there. She doesn't even look like she's about to stand up. Surely this isn't the first time she's ever been on an airplane. Doesn't she realize it's time to go? There's a pause, and then the man who sat next to me grabs his leaky medicine bag and heads off. Then it's my turn, and I'm behind him as quick as possible. As I walk past the row in front of me, where Mama is still sitting there with her little princess in her lap, she loudly whines,
Excuse me, can I please disembark with my family?
I said nothing because I was well past the point of dealing with anyone. But in the middle of the night, when everyone's tired and jet-lagged already, I found it to be the pinnacle of entitlement that women expected everyone to just wait around until she decided it was time to wake her little darling, stand up, dust herself off, and trundle off the plane. Our next story was posted by user Star Spangled Idiot, titled, "Karen demands I play a more appropriate game so her son can watch. Threatens to have her husband arrest me when I resist. I have had it with these mother-freaking Karens on this mother-freaking plane!" Here's some background information. I go to university in Florida, but my family lives in New Jersey, and I fly back and forth between the two a lot. So it was only inevitable that I run into an entitled mother on a plane at some point. One more quick bit about me before we actually get into the story. I'm 21 years old, but when I'm clean shaven, which is really rare, I look significantly younger. I feel you there. And it just so happens that I felt like shaving a few hours before my flight. This sounds like an obscure detail, but trust me, it comes into play later when Karen mistakes me for a teenager. Our cast: me, obviously, Karen, obviously, FA, flight attendant, RP, random passenger on the other side of the aisle, AD, army dude. This happened in the first week of May when my spring semester ended. I never pay the extra money to choose my own seat, so this always results in me getting one assigned to me. I was flying with Spirit. I usually fly with them or Frontier, and this is how seating works for them. So most of the time I end up in the middle seat, since all the people who choose their own seats would obviously never pick that. However, I was lucky enough to score a window seat this time. This is an extremely popular opinion, but the window seat is my favourite plane seat. Disagree, the aisle seat is the best because you can just go to the toilet whenever you want. Back to the story. Enter Karen and her son. Karen looks exactly how you would expect, and her son is most likely no older than 8 years old. Neither of them made any effort to greet me or introduce themselves, which I didn't mind one bit, since I didn't try to talk to them either. I was already playing The Binding of Isaac on my Nintendo Switch with earbuds plugged in, which clearly signaled that I wasn't in the mood to socialize. My flight was pretty early in the morning, and I was tired as crap. Karen sat in the aisle seat, and her son sat in the middle, between us. Now, for those of you who have never heard of The Binding of Isaac, it's an M-rated video game, and it does feature a decent bit of blood, but the graphics are very cartoony and mild. It shouldn't even be rated M if you ask me. Although I have had people disagree with me on this, so maybe I just have a really good tolerance. But not if you ask Karen. Because about half an hour into the flight, I feel a tap on my left shoulder. I was sitting on the right side of the plane. I took my left earbud out and turned to Karen. That's when this conversation started. Yeah, what's going on?
Excuse me, would you mind playing a different game?
Why?
My son is watching you play and that game is creeping him out. It isn't appropriate for him.
It's the only game I have, so there isn't really anything I can do about that. Of course, this was a cold-faced lie. Ask anyone I've ever talked to. If I have one defining characteristic, it's my active and enthusiastic hobby of game collecting. But Karen didn't need to know that. I just didn't see the reason to let the way I entertain myself be dictated by an 8-year-old, especially one that I've never met and never will meet again.
Sure there is. You can stop playing.
And sit here for 2 hours staring out the window with no other way to entertain myself? If it's all the same to you, I'd rather not. At this point, Karen is starting to raise her voice.
Well, it's not the same to me. You need to learn to be aware of children around you.
Now, a bit more background information about myself. I spent a lot of time growing up around my little brother and a lot of other children in my family who were considerably younger than me. And every time I wanted to do something I enjoyed, my parents would always make me dumb it down somehow because I needed to include the other kids. So long story short, I've really grown to resent commands like this, and hearing one from a stranger caused me to grow especially hostile. Oh yeah, and I hate kids. No, I don't. Your son needs to learn that the world doesn't revolve around him and not to poke his nose where it doesn't belong. In hindsight, I was a pretty big jerk, but I don't exactly have the greatest social skills in the world. Also, Karen was a jerk first and a much bigger one, as you'll see later on in the story. So I like to think that I was justified.
How dare you talk back to an adult that way?
I give my peers the same amount of respect that they give me. I've done nothing but sit here and mind my own business, and I would appreciate the same courtesy.
I'm not one of your stupid peers. I'm not a teenager.
Those statements contradict each other. I'm an adult too.
No, you're not.
Are you trying to argue with me over my own age?
Then prove it to me.
Of course, my first idea was just to say no and try to drop this foolish conversation. But then I realized that she probably would keep bugging me if I did, and my best chance at ending this was proving her wrong. So I took out my driver's license. I began to reach over to hand it to her, but I was barely halfway through the motion before she impatiently snatched it from my hand.
This is fake. My husband is a cop. I'm having you arrested when he picks us up at the airport.
Well, it's real, so have fun wasting both of our family's time. Now, in Karen's defense, I was named after my dad, who was named after his dad, who was named after his dad. So my name does sound like that of an old person, and is very rare in my generation. So I guess it's somewhat plausible for her to think that I got a fake ID with an older person's information on it.
No, it's not. I bet you use this to get into bars, just like everyone else your age.
Well, yes, I do use my ID to get into bars, and so do most other 21-year-olds, so that makes perfect sense to me.
Shut the freak up, you criminal. I'm not giving it back.
Whoa, that's some intense language. You need to learn to be aware of your children around you. Karen was clearly furious, but didn't even want to entertain me with a response, so I didn't say anything else either. At this point, she was quite literally stealing my ID, and I obviously had to do something about it, so I decided to wait for a flight attendant to come by so I could tell them what was going on. In the meantime, I decided to continue playing The Binding of Isaac, knowing full well that this would pee Karen off, since it was the original root of the situation, and it visibly did. However, instead of saying something to me again, she decided to push the button that summons flight attendants. In hindsight, I should have done that when she stole my license, but I forgot that that was an option at the time. I have my earbuds attached to the game as usual, but this time the volume is all the way down, so I can eavesdrop while looking like I have no idea what's going on. Enter FA. Karen says, "Excuse me, that kid in the window seat is disturbing my son. Please make him stop." FA looks at me skeptically and says, "He doesn't look like he's disturbing anyone."
Yes, he is. He's playing an inappropriate game, and my son is watching. Make him stop.
There isn't a policy against video games as long as they're in airplane mode. If your son doesn't like the game, he shouldn't be watching it. Karen is probably about to say something, but now I decide to butt in. Does that mean that there isn't a policy that allows someone to steal my driver's license if I'm playing a game that she deems inappropriate? No, there's nothing like that. Well, clearly she didn't get the memo. The flight attendant turns to Karen. "Ma'am, did you steal his driver's license?" "What? No? How dare you accuse me of such a thing? Are you really gonna believe a stupid kid over me?" I give FA a smirk, and she shoots me back an understanding smirk. At this point, she realizes she'll need to appease Karen until the time is right. "Okay, ma'am, give me a few minutes to speak to the captain. I'll see what I can do about your situation." FA walks away and comes back to our row a few minutes later. "There's a seat available in first class," or whatever Spirit calls those seats. "I'm usually not allowed to usher passengers there, but we can make an exception after what you've had to deal with."
Oh, thank God. This rotten teenager has been ruining my flight.
"Oh, I wasn't talking to you, ma'am." She looks over at me. "Sir, would you like to move up to first class with no extra charge?" I flash a douchey grin at Karen, then look to FA and subtly shrug as I say, "Well, if you insist, how can I say no?" "Great. And also, ma'am, it would probably be in your best interest to give him back his driver's license."
He's lying. Why would I want a teenager's ID?
Enter RP, who stands up and starts talking to FA. "Excuse me, ma'am. I've been listening to what's been going on. This woman demanded to see his ID and then loudly announced that she wasn't giving it back."
"He's lying," turns to RP. "Of course you would take his side, you sexist. Now shut up and mind your own goddamn business."
Now 2 other nearby passengers stand up and start taking my and RP's side. And the best part? They're both women. Now Karen can't even play the sexism card. FA says, "If you stole his driver's license, please give it back before you create more problems for us and our passengers, and get arrested for theft when we land in Atlantic City."
"You can't arrest me. My husband's a cop, and he's waiting for me at the airport."
Then can you imagine how upset he would be when the first thing he has to do when he sees you is arrest you? Now, please make everyone's lives easier and give him his license back so that no other trouble has to start. Karen reluctantly gives back my ID without even making eye contact. FA escorted me to my new seat, next to AD. While I was on the way, she told me that I could probably press charges against Karen for attempted theft and disturbing the peace with her, FA, and a handful of other passengers as witnesses. But I shrugged it off and decided that it wasn't worth it. Sure, Karen is a horrible person, but I have nothing to gain from having her arrested and disturbing the lives of the witnesses to possibly have in a court case. Anyway, I sit down next to AD. He pretty much looks like exactly how you would expect. In full uniform, buzz cut, the whole 9 yards. Of course, as soon as I sit down, I shake his hand, thank him for his service, all that good stuff. I apologize that I had to disrupt his privacy because of an entitled mother. He chuckles, "Nah man, don't worry about it." AD was actually very interested in hearing about what had happened with me and Karen, so I told him pretty much everything I've written about above, and he got an absolute kick out of it. Turns out he had also been a pretty big gamer before going into the military, so we had quite a bit to talk about in the remaining hour and 45 minutes of the flight. That's pretty much the story. The rest of the flight was pretty enjoyable. Kind of anticlimactic ending, but oh well. I still don't regret not appeasing that brat. Entitled parent denies me medication, denies caring for me, and gets angry when I decide I've had enough and start preventing her crap storms. As a backstory, I'm 16 and recently connected with my mother after having no contact for 2 years due to her constant verbal abuse and threats to send me to foster care because she didn't want me. When we reconnected, everything was good and I even went to her wedding. However, I guess someone's true colours never change. My mum began acting like herself again in December, deciding to cancel family counselling because the counsellor wanted her to make some effort on her part instead of demanding that I fix everything in our relationship. She tried to hide this by telling me our counsellor quit. However, I called the place where my counselling was, as it was the same building as my psychiatrist, and was told my mother cancelled the appointments. I've had counselling and therapy all my life, and my mother is very used to being able to get them to tell her everything I talk to them about, so she can judge and punish me for it. However, my psychiatrist refuses to tell her anything as I'm now in an age where he can't legally disclose my information and I'm also not living under her roof. This angers my mother and she has tried to cancel every single appointment I've had since I started seeing this psychiatrist. Each time I go to psychiatry, she makes sure to degrade me, tells me I'm faking it for attention, I need to just grow up, and there's nothing wrong with me, despite having been diagnosed with anxiety and depression. Yesterday, my psychiatrist prescribed me medication to also help with the signs of borderline personality disorder. However, he can't diagnose me with it until I turn 18. Weird Canada laws. This really angered my mother, as she's also anti-vaccine and anti-medicine. She keeps me on vitamins and says the medicine will only make it worse. She contacted my psychiatrist to cancel all future appointments, and told me if I continue to see him, she will see to it that I become homeless, as I'm living under the roof of a family friend who does not legally have to take care of me. I decided to take matters into my own hands and call my psychiatrist to reschedule all appointments, get another prescription for the medication, which I can legally get on my own at 16, and contact Child and Family Social Services for support. This was the last straw for my insane mother, and now she is trying everything in her power to make me homeless, even going as far as to take my birth certificate and healthcare card, so if I do somehow get into foster care, I won't be able to do much, such as get a job or get medical attention. I'm going to my school constable today, and I'll tell you guys how it goes. Yeah, I tried looking for an update and I couldn't find one of that story. Our next story is posted by user Ducking Pancakes, titled, "Entitled kid copies my answers, then accuses me of cheating, so I get my revenge, then entitled mother reports me for bullying." Sorry about the layout, this is definitely going to get buried, but I thought I'd post it anyway, even though it happened a while ago. My memory isn't the best, so this is only a basic outline of what was actually said. EK equals entitled kid, EM equals entitled mother, T equals teacher, and OP is me. Okay, let's start. For background, I went to school with entitled kid a very long time ago, and somehow I managed to get on his bad side. Entitled kid didn't seem to like me and would use any possible excuse he had to torment me and make school a living hell. Before we started sitting together in this particular class, he had already been picking on me for years, so I wasn't excited and kind of expected this from him. Entitled kid wasn't the sharpest tool in the shed, and he often copied other kids' answers. I didn't want to make his attitude towards me any worse than it already was, so I was just play along and act like I didn't notice him looking over my shoulder. This went on for a while, until one day, T finally held us both back after class. This is basically how the conversation went. "I've noticed both of you are getting similar scores on tests and are writing down the same answers in class. Would either of you like to admit to anything?" As I didn't want to be called a snitch, I kept my mouth shut and hoped this other kid would learn his lesson. But no, that's not how it works apparently. "OP has been stealing my answers for months. It's so annoying. Actually, it's the other way around. Why didn't you say this before? She's just trying to blame it on me. It basically ended up with me in detention and entitled kid running free because the way it looked was as if he told the truth, and I turned the tables on him. We were still sitting next to each other in class, so he continued to copy my work. Then it came to the next test. I had heard something online about someone who got their revenge by taking all of the answers wrong in pencil, then rubbing it out last minute and rewriting them in pen. And that is exactly what I did. I ticked every answer, far from correct, to an extent where some of the answers were even quite dumb. Then around 5 minutes to the end of the test, I went through again, rubbing out my answers and ticking the correct answers in pen. Also, intentionally covering most of my answers so that he struggled to copy them. Entitled Kid's expression was a mixture of anger and defeat, as he knew he couldn't do anything now. It was priceless. After the test, he came up to me looking pale and worried, and asked me why I did it. I acted like I had no idea what he was talking about, and he stormed off angrily. We handed in the tests, and when they came back, I got a decent score as usual, and he failed miserably. The teacher even made a comment on how messy it looked when he scribbled out his answers. I bet you think this is the end. No, we're only just getting started. This is the entitled mother's time to shine. It wasn't long after that test, maybe a week or so, when me and my parents were called into the school to attend a meeting with the teacher, entitled kid, and entitled mother. This is how it went. Entitled mother has contacted us about the OP bullying the entitled kid. OP, do you have anything you'd like to say? Yeah, exactly what did I do?
You made my entitled kid fail his test.
Could you explain how OP managed to do that? Entitled mother goes on to explain exactly what I did, and the teacher suddenly realized who was really cheating off of who. So, your kid was cheating?
No. He already knew all of the answers anyway. It's just a waste of his time.
Yes, the entitled mother actually told the teacher it was a waste of her dumb kid's time, whilst basically admitting that he cheated. But he was copying the answers anyway. Entitled mother didn't really have much to say after that. Entitled kid was given a detention and left in a huff, and I got an apology from the teacher for the detention that I was put in. Unfortunately, I don't have a really amazing ending, and the entitled kid continued to annoy me throughout the rest of my time at that school. But here's my story with the entitled kid and entitled mother anyway. Our next story is by user Sergeant Laughter, titled, Mother Calls the Police from the Other Side of the World. Okay, so this is my first story, and sorry for bad English. I'm Swedish, sorry for format, on the phone. We'll edit once I get home. So, I was playing some Rainbow Six Siege solo queue and met this 12 to 14 year old kid. After the game, he invites me to a 1v1 on house. I agreed and the game was on. Now, I'm okay at Siege around Platinum 3, and he was maybe Silver something, so for me it was an easy game. And this kid was trash talking the whole time. Yeah bro, you suck. And, oh, are you really gonna play insert different operator? She sucks. And so on and on. So the real story begins when he starts using swear words. K is kid, M is mother, and me is Ash Ketchum. F you, man. Hey, why are you swearing at my son? What? I have not been swearing at your son.
Well, I just heard you say frick you to my son.
No, I did not.
And why are you killing my son all of the time?
It's kind of the point of the game to kill the opponent.
Well, why is he not killing you?
Well, that may be because I happen to be better at this game than he is.
I want you to stop killing my son.
Yeah, no, not gonna happen, lady.
You want me to call the cops for assault?
Good luck, ma'am.
Where do you live?
Sweden.
Do not lie to me, you a-hole.
Ma'am, why would I lie to you?
Why would you not lie to me to get out of the police coming to your house?
Touché, man. Oh. But I'm not lying to you. In Swedish.
What is your address?
Riksgatan 1 112 Stockholm. Address of the Swedish Parliament. Then there is silence for a while.
So now I have called to police and they're on the way.
Sweet, I'll be here waiting for them.
Good, I hope you'll enjoy jail.
Yeah, I'm sure I will. Well, goodbye. Better get dressed for when the police show up. Bye. I left the game and went to sleep. From what I know, the police have not showed up yet, so... Our next story is posted by user, The Shrimp Boy, titled, Entitled Mother Doesn't Like My Clothes. She Wants Them. Our lovely cast are me, Entitled Mother, and the kid who was kinda cool. I was walking down the street by a park in my neighborhood. It was sort of chilly out as it was 11 a.m. I had a black Leningrad Cowboys shirt on, which is an old Finnish band, and my black jacket that's covered in patches. I was exercising my dog because he's kinda chonky and minding his own business. Ork ork. I see a woman and a child walking towards me. They are minding their own business, but the woman had the look. I decided to hope for the best and walk past, but as I'm about to pass her, she says, "Stop!" Is there a problem, man?
What the freak are you wearing?
Band shirt? The shirt features a good bit of communist imagery, like red stars and hammer plus sickles.
It has communism on it. Why are you exposing my kid to that?
The kid has his headphones in and was playing a game on a phone. He just glanced up and saw me, no further interaction. With all due respect, I can wear whatever I want, thanks. I don't even think your kid cares.
Hitler was a communist? You were supporting Hitler! He killed billions of people! Kay cares! Look!
The kid looks up, then back down at the phone. My dog was actually visibly scared of this woman. If I'm being honest, that's not what happened. And you don't control what I wear, lady. Can you move, please? I had tried to push past her or walk around, but she kept stopping me.
Give me the shirt.
What?
Give it to me. I'm going to destroy it so no one else has to see this vulgar shirt ever again.
Lady, this is my favorite shirt. Plus, I'm not stripping down in the middle of a park. I decide enough is enough and forcefully push past the bench. As I walk away, she sees all the patches on the back of my jacket.
What is that?
My jacket has a lot of metal band patches, like Anthrax, Metallica, and Judas Priest.
Your jacket is even worse! That rock music is the work of the devil! Give it to me now!
She starts running after me. I run faster, because track team. She eventually gives up chase and leaves me alone. Hitler was fascist, not communist. Come on, people. Our next story was posted by a user, Connor Detroit Fanboy, titled, Entitled Mum Demands I Give Her Kid My Switchblade. Backstory, it was a birthday, my younger brother's birthday. So as any kid's party, there were lots of kids. P.S. Sorry for formatting, and parents. One, however, was an entitled bench, and ruined his last year, all because her little devil spawn wasn't in the center of attention. Now after all this happened, my mum decided to give her a second chance. Cue the cast. Entitled Mum, Entitled Little Cumstain, my mum, and me. On with the story. So I'm sitting in my room, cleaning my switchblade. Don't assume crap. Cue, Entitled Little Cumstain.
What are you doing?
Why are you in my room?
What's that?
Pointing to my switchblade. A switchblade. Why?
I want it.
No, it's a switchblade, aka too dangerous for a kid your age. The kid was about 5 to 6, around the same age of my brother.
I'm getting mommy.
Okay, I don't care. After 2 minutes, I'm almost done cleaning my switchblade when cue Entitled Mother.
Why don't you let my child have that?
Points to the switchblade. Because it's a switchblade, aka too dangerous for a kid his age.
Ha! My kid is responsible enough for that silly knife. Hand it over.
Lady, the kid is like 5 or 6 years old. Hell, 7 at a push. So no, I'm not giving that kid the knife. Then the Entitled Mother does something unthinkable.
I'm telling your mother.
Like a 5-year-old. So after 2 more minutes, I'm finally done cleaning my switchblade. So I put it up, and surprise, surprise, it's Entitled Mother with my mom.
Where is it, you little crap?
Put up.
Why?
Because.
Because why?
because I don't want it to be stolen by some entitled bench who wants her kid to die, and if you want him to die so badly, kill him yourself. Well, I think you need to leave, entitled mother, because my son needs to calm down, okay? Our next story was posted by user Bloody Rose of Darkness, titled,
My son deserves to be allowed to sing here.
What's up, fellow Redditors? So for the past year, I have been going to a karaoke bar in the city. I mostly go alone and sit by myself, but I know one of the co-owners, the manager, and a few of the staff. I go almost every week, whether it's a Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. While I do have issues with people still due to my anxiety, since my first entitled parent encounter, I developed an intolerance towards stupid and stuck-up people. So I had tendencies to lash out now when confronted by such a person. Sometimes I'll end up having an attack afterwards, or I end up having a very strong drink when I have access to alcohol. Our cast are Karen, stuck-up bench, Tal, 14-year-old brat, Jack, the awesome manager, Mike, the very nice co-owner, and me, the mystical elf from another world. Now on with the story. So, I am at a karaoke bar in the city. I had been there since they opened at 8:30 p.m. I was there alone, like I often was, and I was fine, as I knew a few people who worked there, and one of the co-owners, so my anxiety never really flared up while I was in the crowded bar. I was just coming up to 9:30 p.m. when I got a call from my sister, so I went out front. After being on the phone for a few minutes, my sister and I ended the call, and as I hung up, a woman, 30 to 40 years old, and her son, clearly not old enough to be in a bar, came around the corner and headed up to the door to the bar where a man was standing and checking IDs. That man was Jack the manager. Now, the legal drinking age in Australia is 18. With karaoke bars and clubs, no one under 18 is allowed in, even if they are with a parent. It's different if it's a restaurant with a bar, like Sizzler. I leaned against the wall and watched the two for a moment before deciding to head in, as it was a cold night, but rather warm inside the bar. The woman and her son got to the door, and the interactions are as followed. Karen walks up to the door. Jack says, "May I please see your ID?" Karen says nothing and shows Jack her ID. Jack smiles and hands her back her ID. "Thank you, ma'am." Karen smiles curtly and walks inside. Tal goes to follow his mother. Jack stops him and asks for his ID. "Oh, I don't have one, I'm 14. "Well, then I'm afraid I can't let you in. I'm with my mother, so it's fine." Now, I could already tell from what the boy said that crap was going to hit the fan, and quickly. So I decided to head to the door to go inside and away from the drama. As I got to the door, Karen appeared again.
Tal, what's taking you so long? Jack, won't let me in. Jack, why won't you let my son in?
It's a karaoke bar. It's a licensed premise that serves alcohol. As it is not a restaurant, I cannot allow anyone under the age of 18 or under without ID to enter.
He's with me, so it's fine.
No, it isn't. He's underage. He can't come into the bar. Tal starts whining like a child.
Mommy, I want to sing.
Yes, he dragged out the word sing.
You will, honey.
By this time, I was getting really cold, so I made my way through the door, nodding at Jack as I passed him, only to be grabbed by my arm and spun around by Karen.
Why is she allowed in and not my son? She's clearly not 18 or older.
I'm 21 with short hair that makes me look older, but sometimes the way I dress makes me look younger, and in this case I was wearing a dress that flows a lot when you spin. Ma'am, I'm 21, and can you please let go of my arm? Ma'am, she is here every week, and she always has her ID on her in case liquor and gaming show up, and card everyone.
Bull crap, she doesn't even have a bag with her.
Me starting to panic a bit. It's inside.
Mom, it's cold out here. I want to go inside and sing. Look at what you've done. My poor baby is freezing because you won't let him in. I am married to the owner of this bar. Let my son in.
Jack and I look at each other, which seemed to pee off Karen even more.
Quit staring at each other and let my son in.
Jack smiles softly. How about I message your husband to come outside?
My husband is at home. He doesn't come here until tomorrow.
That's funny, because both owners are here tonight. My anxiety had subsided for a moment. I know for a fact that you are not married to either of them, since one is single and I met the other one's wife 2 weeks ago.
I am married to the owner.
Karen is screeching like a baby who lost its pacifier. Jack messages one of the owners to come outside. While Karen was screeching and her son whining, one of the co-owners came outside. Mike says, Jack, OP, what's going on? This lady wants me to allow her son into the bar despite him only being 14. She then proceeded to stop OP from entering the bar despite being told she's been here for an hour and is 21.
That's a lie. I am married to the owner. I will get you fired.
Ma'am, I am the owner of this bar, and I'm not married to you, neither is the other co-owner.
Bullcrap. I'm calling the police about you. This is discrimination.
I had had enough with Karen and her son, so I ignored my rising anxiety and got right in Karen's face. Speaking with a menacing tone, of course. Listen here, you entitled bench. You do not own this bar. I have been coming here every week for the past year, and not once have I seen you. I also told you how I met his, points at Mike, his wife, 2 weeks ago. I know both owners, and you are not married to either of them. If you want to call the cops, then go ahead. All three of us will say how you've been harassing us and trying to get an underage kid into a bar. It is illegal for anyone to enter a licensed premises if it is not a restaurant. Plus, there is also security cameras with audio, so it would be in your best intention to turn around and leave. This crap might work in other places where the owners aren't always around and their spouses don't show up, but it won't work here. Jack and Mike were surprised, as they knew I had anxiety and hated confrontation, but I was cold and wanted to go inside, and this bench was preventing me from doing so. Karen was about to say something when her son tugged on her arm and she looked at him. Her 14-year-old son had pissed his pants from the tone of voice I was using. Karen looked back at me and grabbed her son's arm and ran off, dragging him behind her. After that, I went inside and ordered a very strong drink as my anxiety had shot through the roof and I was near a panic attack. No one got arrested and tasered and injured. Sorry, fellow Redditors. And our next story is posted by user No One Out-Pizzas the Hut. Titled, Entitled Mum Tries to Steal My Credit Card Because I'm Too Young. Oh my god, this is stupid. I went to see Aladdin today at the movie theaters, so I purchased the ticket online and drove to the theater. We got to our seats, my brother and I gave him some money to go get a snack or some popcorn. I told him I would stay here while he does so. He comes back with water and popcorn. About halfway into the movies, I took a break to go to the bathroom. After my break, I took a walk up to the area where you buy your popcorn, forget what it's called, shaking my damn head, and I was in line to get a popcorn and a drink, and took out my debit card so I was ready to pay. Enter entitled mother. She gets in line and is right behind me as I'm going to pay, and sees me with my card. She taps me on the shoulder and says, "Excuse me, but I think you are too young to be able to use one of those. I'm 16. I simply say, "Ma'am, I'm well old enough to own one of these. My mum helped me get it." Entitled mother walks away, don't know what for, and comes back asking where my mum is. She isn't here at the moment. She's at my house. Entitled mother says, "Ugh," under her breath, and I ask if there's something wrong. She says, "You can just give the card to me. I'm sure there is nothing on it." I of course decline her request and say it has enough money to buy what I need. It had like $10 on it. Entitled mother says, "Well then, it has enough for what I need." She reaches her hand out and said, "Hand it over," in a mean, you know what's gonna happen if you don't kind of voice. Ma'am, it's not yours to take. I own this card and I'm going to use it. We step out of line and she starts saying how my mum is a bad mum for getting me that, and how she is stupid and probably didn't go to school. I'm guessing she said that to make me feel sad to the point I give it to her, but that was not going to happen. I ignored her remarks, and I said, "Ma'am, I won't let you have..." She proceeded to try and steal my card, and I've asked her to stop what she is doing, and a man stepped in and told her, "Hands off." He looked like the guy that would be in a biker gang or something. She said, "Isn't this kind gentleman too young to own a debit card?" The man said, "Doesn't look too young at all. You have a problem with people that are younger than you?" She said, "Oh, no, not at all." She backed away slowly, and that was the end of it. Short, but not sweet. I ended the movie, and my little brother still has no idea what happened. He asked me when I got back, "What took so long?" I told him problems with the popcorn machine. I didn't get the popcorn. Should have screamed, "Help! This woman's trying to rob me!" Then watch her run like a cockroach. If she's caught, it's a strong-arm robbery charge and a multi-year prison sentence. Win-win, OP. Our next story is posted by user Applecake6262, titled, "Entitled Mum Calls 911 on my dad
For kidnapping my son.
So, I have an entitled mum, and she is horrible. I have countless stories about her, and I'm going to start posting them. So back when I was 11, during January, my mum didn't enroll me into school for a whole week. I asked her why, and her response was, "I'm your mother, and I can do what I want." When I was 2, my parents broke up, but never got divorced. Therefore, they both have custody. A few years prior, my dad moved to Texas to meet up with an online dating thing, and they were together for 5-ish years. But that's not important to the story. My dad's a nice, caring person, hence to why they aren't together anymore. On Friday, the 5th day of not going to school, he called me to check up on me. He asked about school, and I told him that I hadn't been at school in a week. He seemed annoyed, but I didn't think about it. Later in the call, I asked him if I could just move in with him. He said when I'm ready. I also told him about how there was no food, the shower was broken, and that our mum hasn't washed our clothes in months. A few days later, Entitled Mother told me that my dad was coming up because a relative was near death, and he wanted to visit them. She said that we were going to hang out before he goes, and by we, she meant just me and my brother. You'll see why in a minute. When he got here, my mum said to my dad, "Don't get my sons in trouble." My dad laughed, because he is also the parent. When we got into the car, my dad told me and my 10-year-old brother that there was no relative, and that we were moving with him in Texas. My 10-year-old brother started crying and freaking out, screaming, "Ray!" even though the windows were up. I'm trying to convince him to come because it is so much better than being here. I stayed with him during the summer. We had to drive home because my dad didn't want to force him to go if he didn't want to. He let him out of the car, and my dad drove off because my brother was going to tell my mum. On our way leaving the state, I asked why he didn't bring my 9-year-old brother, and my dad said because he's autistic, and he basically is property of the state of Ohio. I can believe this because the state barely even lets the entitled mother have him. Once we got to the bridge, my dad got tired of my mum spam calling him, so he answered on the speaker. D is dad, mum is entitled mum, me is me, and officer is O. Yes?
You just stole my son.
No, I didn't.
Yes, you did. I have custody.
No, you don't.
You're kidnapping my son. How do I not have custody?
Because we're married. Law says if you're married, there is no custody.
He doesn't want to be with you.
Chris, do you want to go? Yes, I want to go. You suck as a parent and all you do is sit in your ass. And then he hangs up. He then called an officer and explained the situation. Yeah, she actually just called. She said that some white man kidnapped her kids and one escaped. Nope, you can check my records, I'm the father. Officer confirms this and reassures my dad that he's 100% in the right. Goes without saying, I enjoyed my time away from her. Edits. 1. Thanks for my silver and gold medals. 2. To the people asking about how being autistic means he's property of the state, it's a weird situation. They make him go to an alternative school, and the school makes money from him going. The social worker he had quit, and he got a new one, and she told us about the school making money from him, and got him to be able to leave the state last week. So he can leave now, but at the same time the school was threatening to call Child Protective Services if he left. 3. Someone said that the story is fake because he was questioning how my siblings' ages don't change. To that person, this story was 3 years ago. I didn't live with my half-siblings then, and in my recent stories, I do live with them. And my full siblings during the time of this story are similar ages to my half-siblings now. 4. People who asked if I still live with my dad. No, he got arrested. But that can be for another r/Entitledparents story. If you would like to see a few things from some recent issues I've had with the entitled mother, he recommends you click on these 2-part posts down below, but I'm going to be reading them in the next episode after this one. 5. People asked how my dad got arrested and if I still live with my dad. If you don't have time to read part 2 thing, then read this one. It's a brief explanation to what had happened. And in the next video I'm also going to read that one as the 3rd story.